Suspected murderer on the loose this morning after he was mistakenly released from Rikers Island due to a clerical error. 26-year-old Christopher Buggs was let out Tuesday. He is now facing second-degree murder charges for a shooting in Brooklyn in 2018. A captain and an assistant deputy warden, along with 2 correction officers, have now been suspended. But the head of the Correction Officer Benevolent Association says his officers, they are being scapegoated. Union President Benny Boscio Jr. joining me now to explain the why in all of this. So good morning to you, Benny. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Dan. Appreciate you having me on.
This is a big story, right? So first of all, the obvious question I think everybody at home is asking, how the heck does this happen?
Well, look, clerical error that came down that involved several layers of supervisors that went up the chain. He had a time served on one of his cases and something was missing. But, the rush to judgment when the department has 18 months to investigate an incident before they decide to charge somebody, the upfront suspensions of 15 days.
I'm going to get to that in 1 second. I'm going to get to that in a second. I want to just focus on this clerical error so everybody at home can understand. This is a murder suspect who is being held without bail in Rikers Island until his trial. He's also facing another charge on a contempt charge, right? So something that happened in the courtroom. The judge says, yeah, you get 30 days contempt. That charge is up. It comes up in the computer as time served?
Yeah, there'll be something that's sent down saying that his case is time served. And in instances, people have multiple cases. So it came up as time served. Like I said, it went through multiple layers. And it happens, but the scapegoating is the problem that I have, the rush to judgment, because if you have time to investigate this thoroughly, why the suspensions up front? Let the investigation take its course. And since there's such a rush to judgment, where's the accountability for the commanding officer of the facility?
So let me
she's had multiple things happen under her supervision.
Yes, let me explain this.
The low-level officers always get the blunt of this.
Let me explain what's going on here. Okay, so a captain and an assistant deputy warden, along with 2 correction officers that you represent, they were suspended for 2 weeks. That's what you're speaking of. You say they are being scapegoated. Those 2 officers. If those 2 officers are being scapegoated, do the other 2 need to be disciplined?
In what sense? When you say
the other 2 employees, the warden?
Well, everything needs to be thoroughly investigated. Dan, that's the problem that I have with it. Why the correction officers? What's the accountability for the commanding officer if there's going to be such a rush to judgment? She's had several instances under her supervision. She does nothing to motivate staff, and my members have to get suspended up front without a thorough investigation. She's been transferred multiple locations, and where's the failure to lead?
Yeah,
where's the failure to supervisor at the top? It always comes to scapegoating the lower level.
Well, they're going on all, it seems like in this case, Benny, to be fair, they're going at all levels, right? Because you're saying it's multiple layers here. So when somebody
Not at all levels, because the buck stops with the commanding officer.
When somebody gets that form that says that it was time served, right? Is there the other charge of murder that's still on that piece of paper that people have to look at to say, okay, this person still should be in custody? Because at the end of the day, there's now a suspect on the loose.
Every inmate has a folder, where there's multiple paperwork, an email sent, now the way the courts are running now. So yeah, there's multiple layers that this goes up the chain.
And I want to get to another thing right now, which is the number of people who actually work inside this facility, the Otis Bantam Correctional Facility, right? How many inmates are actually housed there? How many correction officers and staff are in that unit?
In terms of how many inmates are housed there, there could be anywhere about maybe 600. I'm not 100% sure, but in our total custody, we have 5,500 inmates right now throughout all our facilities. There's about 800 officers potentially.
Understood. I'm just looking at staffing in that area. And the city announced earlier this week, Benny, and I want to also focus on this. While this is certainly a big story of this mistaken release, there are also plans that made headlines this week to end solitary confinement, punitive segregation, as you call it, at Rikers following the death of Layleen Polanco. You say, and your union's been saying for a long time, it's a recipe for disaster. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, it's like lighting a match, throwing it on gasoline, because my members are under attack, and nobody has been able to say, what do you do with these violent, assaultive inmates that cut other nonviolent inmates, that assault my officers, that cut us? What we have to have the capability to segregate them, to separate them from the population. There's been a 23% increase in assaults on staff. Up last year, it was up 15%. So this is going in the wrong direction. And if there's no consequences for inmate actions, then what do we have? They're just going to keep assaulting us with impunity, and all the advocates are concerned about a small population that continue to wreak havoc in our system.
Do you agree
Why
that there...
isn't anybody advocating for the inmates that are on the other end of that assault?
Do you agree that there's...
It's like saying, Dan, it's like saying we shouldn't have jails, right? If you commit a crime in the jail, we separate you and we put you in jail. We have to have the capability to separate you when you commit a violent act in jail.
Yeah, I think people are looking at cases like Layleen Polanco, Khalif Browder, and this conversation is one we can have over and over again. There are hearings next week. I'm sure you'll be in attendance to voice your opinion. Benny, we're simply out of time this morning, and I appreciate your voice as always. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me.